Thor reacts to Reaper's Lullaby from Lovebites. So, I will bring the video yesterday, guys, but I returned from my funeral yesterday. It was last Friday then. And you know what it is. Just back home. It was just actually, I just got back, the cameras were airing, went right to that. And then honestly, I went and did my Frieren video, right? And I think it was interesting because Frieren, of course, starts as a funeral. And I was just in my head because I normally would have done like a Frieren reaction when I was in the funeral. So I was like, whoa, it was a little bit like some weird meta going on in my head there. But I'm not going to go into too much of the funeral here. But one thing I want to say that is interesting, and this is of course back in my home country of Sweden, right, so on. So a little bit about the Viking tour feel, right? But honestly, I think one thing was very interesting was that my close relative that died then, the way they lived was in a very which is actually kind of common in Sweden. So it's a very interesting, I think, honestly, in a Swedish and also Norwegian, like overall Scandinavian thing, right? So they lived in like a close knitted area, but not in some kind of remote village or whatever. It's not like that. It wasn't like they were living, like 300 people somewhere out in the forest. Rather, they were living in basically top of a mountain, okay, surrounded by forest field there. So one thing that's very, I would say unique, but it's very common in Scandinavia, also Russia and so on, is that we have a lot of nature, right? And what I mean is that we have a lot of nature in between areas. I don't think you see that so much in Japan or USA or whatever. But in Sweden, of course, depending where you are, but in Sweden, it's very much this thing where, if you go to Stockholm, right, you have the major capital and so on. But even leaving just the city center of Stockholm, and you drive for say 10 minutes, you get into a massive forest. That doesn't mean you're not in Stockholm. You're still in the city, okay? But it's just there's an area in between, like this neighborhood and the next neighborhood, right? And there's a huge thick forest in between. You drive for 10 minutes, then you get to basically a new city, right? You actually see part of Stockholm. So if you drive through the different areas, right? Stockholm has a lot of that build-up, and Göteborg is similar too, where it basically is I don't compare it really, but think about it as some kind of circles, right? It's one circle, another circle outside it, right? Kind of like some system of that. And between each circle line, right, is just a lot of nature, right? And then so it's kind of a weird thing there, because in the middle there is city. So basically, right, relative lived, they lived in the mountain, in the forest, still only 5-minute drive from the city, and maybe 15 or 20 minutes on a bike, right? So 5-minute drive. So still very close to the city center, but they were living at the top of a mountain, surrounded by a thick forest, right? And because of that reason, just that little knitted community, right, of people, 400 people living on this mountain, they all came to the funeral, which was really awesome. But it was kind of weird too in a sense too, because whoa, you know what I mean? It was because again, they were all living in the same city. I was living in the sun too, right? But I basically grew up in the city center, or for easy comparison then, and my relative then living in one of these I guess you could a suburb, but not really in a Swedish sense, right? So it was very interesting because it was everyone from that maybe 200-300 villas, houses kind of thing came to the funeral, even if they didn't know my relative. I mean, some of them of course did, but some of the other ones just lived in that. So it's just like a micro little village in a city, right? And I think that Sweden has a lot of that. Same thing in Norway and so on. They has a lot of that small, little tiny areas that are kind of secluded and isolated in this weird way. And I thought about more than in the Frieren video at links, so if you're interested, link below for that. But I found it interesting because one thing I realized, which to me makes it feel so strange, because I lived in other countries like Ireland and UK and so on, right? We have USA, etc., is that most of these smaller villages, right, other countries and so on, they actually have a store, right? If it's an actual small village, they will have a grocery store, a toy store, maybe some hardware, whatever, right? But this is what I mean. This is actually more some kind of secluded little neighborhood outside the city, right? Because this place doesn't have anything. It's just 200-300 villas, 200-300 houses. There's nothing else there. So you have to get in that car. I think that's something that you you don't really find in like a normal, so to speak, small village. Then actually the village will have, you know, like one restaurant or whatever. But here's just completely like this is a secluded area outside. But I talked about it in the older video at length. So the person telling me about the new song was JC8433 yesterday. Thanks for that. And like I said, I would have listened to it yesterday if I had, you know, wasn't at the funeral. Now this song seems to be like region locked, I think. But for me, Dear Link works fine. So listen to that. But now let's go into Reaper's Lullaby instead. It's coming out on Wednesday otherwise. That's the album called Outstanding Power. And I leave a link below for the full thing later then. And I guess we better do another reactions of other viewers or feedback on visuals, right? And I think on YouTube here it's only like one image otherwise. It looks like the ship from Castaway, right? So that's probably the same album that they are on. But anyway, let's start playing the song. These certified Lovebites, yes. Man, I think it's very powerful immediately. It's like I said in my last Hagana video as well earlier this week. I think that, you know, I really do enjoy when Lovebites just smashes it out immediately, right? Not to say that I don't like their power ballads or whatever, but for me, certainly, I prefer the songs when they go like this, right? And they just kind of smack, bam, 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 bam. I also just remember one thing that I want to go and get, guys, to be more fitting than this hammer. Even though this is a Thor reaction, though, I might have a better tick fit here. Okay, the hammer's out. Instead I have the Kama. I mean the Reaper. And I saw the image, I was like, wait a minute. I need to get my own stitch. This is of course just a Japanese Kama, man. Classic Japanese Budokan. But anyway, let's keep going, guys. Let's keep going. Maybe not. I'm doing a Russian right, not communism. Jesus, man, this is probably the strongest trash song. My God, he just kept going. Jesus, man. Yeah, not this feels different though. I think some of the other songs are, right, because usually at that minute there, this is about a 5-minute song, right? Usually about that time frame, they will have some shredding. It's gonna be some Midori versus Miyako typically, right? Some duel perhaps. But this one was much more like it was just like a massive trash, right? This. Not that they have done, not they have not done it before, of course. I'm not saying that, but it certainly. I think it felt somewhat different, honestly. A longer trashing, right? Yeah, a longer, more powerful trashing. I think their other songs tends to have that from shorter distance, right? And then we get into like a shred instead, or a little more. Man, maybe the right word for it, but like a cleaner positioning maybe, where it's kind of like we play this part, this chorus thing, then we go into like shredding. Now it's more like we just kind of go over all together. Yeah, this felt a little more like that, maybe a little more improvised, a little more just maybe So it felt less structured, perhaps. Maybe it's a good word for it. Leave a below, I guys think. But it's a little bit left here, but I think I have a bit left so. Okay, let's do a visual review. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, I'm not, guys. And this is a genuine, serious question, okay? So as I said, right, I was at a funeral, obviously in the opening, and my mother then braided my hair. I had a little bit of the braid left, but it's been like, like 1.5 day ago, I guess, so it's a little bit worse. I lose a little bit in the top there. Should I braid my hair, guys? I've been thinking about it. Should I get like a badass Viking braid? Like seriously? For a while at least? I think my wife wants to braid my hair too. There's one thing that I learned when it comes to women, guys. Like I'm pretty sure yeah. No, but seriously, I remember it's a very short life story, okay? So when I was on a bus trip, okay, going to the capital, Stockholm then, I was 15. I was in the bus with my first girlfriend, right? This is before we were dating. And she was like, oh, can I braid your hair? So I had long hair then as well, right, And I was like, sure, right? And that was the first time a woman braided my hair. But that is for some reason like a huge thing. Because I have, that is something that happened to me many times over the years, okay? That females with romantic love interest in me want to braid my hair. So yeah, that's a thing, guys. I mean, seriously, okay? Women like men with long hair. They can play with long hair. I mean, I'm not even kidding, guys. Even more so, I noticed in some other countries, like when I go to UK and so on. Last time I was in the UK last year twice. It's always women be like, "Oh, it's a nice hair," and so on. I don't know, old ladies, English ladies, and so on. But anyway, I'm thinking about it now. So my mother braided my hair all on the side right there, not all of it, and I probably want to braid my beard. But I kind of want to think about doing like like a badass kind of maybe my I don't know. I think it'd be I don't know. It's been a while since I did it. It's been a while since I had like a braid. So I had it for a while then when I was in high school, like because obviously my first girlfriend like braided my hair, right? So now I feel a little bit like maybe I should do it again. Yeah. Anyway, music review then, guys, of course. But this, as I mentioned earlier, right? Very powerful thrash tunes, very very strong. If you go back a bit here, I think it's about here, like minute 3 or so. You like visuals will see, but yeah, I think it's here. Yeah, definitely the best part, right? That's amazing thrashing. That's really good. I kind of really want to see the coach doing it live now, right? Doing it visually. They probably all stand there like crazy. I do want to put up some badass Midori image now. Let's do that. But yeah, I just felt I need to throw in a badass image of Midori, right? Maybe I should do one of those videos one day. We go over her like gym stuff. Because she's like a bodybuilder, right? Yeah, which is, I mean, you can see it on her, obviously. She got great arms and so on. Her biceps are massive. But I mean, she has one actual competitions, right? I think in bodybuilding. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, which is badass, yeah. But I think that overall, right, and I mentioned in all the videos too, that usually when people are good at something, like with Miyako also playing, you know, the different instruments, talking about that, the X, synth or guitar called, right, and piano and so forth. Usually when someone is good at something, they're also good at other stuff too, right? Because it usually comes into, easy way to explain it, right, is, you know, great determination, willpower, whatever, right? Mada in enemies, right? Because usually people that are like, oh, I want to be really, really good at something. I want to be really good at playing the guitar, right? Then you also have like discipline to be really good at playing or whatever, piano, right? Or like, oh, I want to be really, you know, well muscular. I want to get ripped, right? So you have like the focus on that, right? So on, which is very common. As a side note, what usually explains that is, of course, called delayed gratification, right? Which I have studied out myself, and I wrote papers about that. I read many years ago, and that's the biggest strength, right? I think especially for training, right? Physical training, because delayed gratification means that you are willing to like set aside whatever you're doing right now, right, for like the reward later. So the easiest way to explain it basically is a typical marshmallow test, which is like you can have one weapon now, or you can have two in 15 minutes, right? Do you want one now or two later, right? And if a kid is like, I want to have two later, you know, then they can pass the test, right? But some kids like, I want it now, right? Then obviously you don't get a hammer, so it's like, yeah. That's the thing you can test and train, of course, kids, right? And what you see then, especially with, you know, like physical training, fitness, right? Is that, of course, it's kind of like, oh, I'm doing this thing now, and it will take me, you know, maybe years, right, to get like really ripped, you know, really to get like massive arms, but it takes a long time, right? So you have to kind of set that aside, right, and be focused on the future by training and so on. And that's also why, of course, these children that does the good in those tests are good at school, right? Because schoolwork is kind of like, oh, I pass a test now, so then 10 minutes from now I can have a good degree, right, and get a good job and so on. Kinda. But anyway, what do you guys think? New best thrash song? Like I said, I really like the opening as well and so on. But it does feel, honestly, to me, this is the first time I'm doing this. I realize now, this does feel a little bit weird to me, not having any visuals. I admit it, you know, I had to put on a hot Midori image, right? I am a visual guy, you know, you see the Yurichi behind me, you know, I'm gonna have some badass muscular woman, right? But seriously, right, I always said it, right, but that's what my favorite thing is, like, you know, like anime openings and, you know, like seeing everything coming together, right, you know, the performance, obviously, I've said it before, but as a kid, my favorite artist was Michael Jackson, right? You know, you want to see it like this. You want to hear this great song, but you also want to see the performer doing some badass dance or whatever. But I mean, who doesn't like Michael Jackson? I mean, he was the most popular person back then as a kid, right? But that's what I mean. You know, you want someone like Midori, right? Which is like the full package, right? You want to have a great music, but also like a great performance. Great stage presence, right? You know, Asami, FRONTWOMEN, stuff like that, right? You want that stuff as well, right? So, I will, not that someone's bad, not someone's great, but it feels a little bit weird now when I'm reviewing it, because I'm probably I don't know, guys. I'm sure you guys, listen to a bunch of other reviewers and reactors, right? But I'm probably one of them that focus a lot on the visuals, right? Probably more on people. I'm guessing here, but probably like what David Hagana. The nail polish. Yeah, but I like top models. I'm like, look at her hairstyle. Yeah, I remember I did my first Varney video, and I was like, man, look at her pants. It's an interesting pants style. I was like, I'm that kind of guy, I'm a creative director guy, So I like the full package, right? To be honest. Anyway, guys, that's a great song. Subscribe. Press the like button. Oh yeah, actually one question, guys. I've been thinking of otherwise testing like a new band as well, right? I've always tried to find new bands, right? And I was thinking of maybe doing like Aldius or like maybe Mare's Blood or some of these older bands. But I don't know if people are interested in like reaction reviews to this band because to my understanding they're all disbanded, right? It's like older all-girl, female rock, heavy rock, metal bands that they were right in Japan. But it might be interesting to check out some of the like, classic old songs that maybe like kind of started a bit of the genre or inspired maybe like Lovebites or other artists like Bad Maid or whatever later, right? So I think I might drop like an audios video next week or something because I was interested when I read it. So I'm starting to read up more on the lore, different band members and so on, right? So I kind of gathered they were like the first all-girl, badass rock band thing, to my understanding. So I was like, interesting to check out maybe 1 or 2 songs from them and see how it kind of started, right? It's kind of like the genre itself, right, in a sense. But anyway, so you guys have a great day.